Once, in a forgotten corner of the galaxy, a retired, kind-hearted man named Elias lived alone on a small, weather-worn farm in the hills. He had spent his younger years working as a healer, tending to the sick and the wounded, and traveling from one planet to another. But now, in his twilight years, he had chosen a quieter life. The universe, once so vast and full of wonders, now seemed smaller to him. His hands, weathered and rough, moved slower than they used to, but his heart was still as full of compassion as it had been in his prime. One morning, while Elias was tending to his small vegetable garden, he heard an unfamiliar sound coming from the dense forest beyond his home. It was a low, sorrowful cry that seemed to echo across the hills, so haunting that it sent a shiver down his spine. Fearing for the safety of whatever creature might be in distress, Elias made his way through the trees, guided only by the sound of the pained whimpers. As he pushed through the underbrush, Elias came upon a clearing where an astonishing sight awaited him. There, on the ground, lay a colossal creature, an alien dragon, its scales shimmering in shades of deep purple and gold. Her wings, torn and ragged, were folded weakly at her sides. Her eyes, full of pain and exhaustion, met Elias's with an almost human-like sadness. She was clearly injured, her massive body battered from some unseen battle or crash. But it wasn't just her condition that startled him. It was the unmistakable signs of motherhood that touched his heart deeply. The dragon, though huge and frightening to any ordinary person, seemed not to care for Elias's presence. She was searching for something, her eyes darting over the landscape with desperation. It didn't take long for Elias to understand what she was after. Beneath the dragon's belly, nestled against her soft, tattered wing, was a tiny, helpless creature, a baby dragon, its scales a dull gray and its breathing shallow. Elias's heart broke. He could see the mother's struggle, the sheer will to protect her child from whatever calamity had befallen them. The baby dragon was trapped, unable to move, its fragile form unable to get out from beneath its mother's injured body. Without thinking, Elias knelt beside the mother and reached out gently, his voice soft as he spoke to her. "I won't hurt you, my friend. I'll help you. We'll get your baby out of here." The dragon's weary gaze softened, as though she understood him, though she didn't have the strength to react. Elias carefully inspected the baby dragon, and with a sigh of relief, he saw that it wasn't crushed, only pinned beneath its mother's body. Her injury was severe, but not beyond healing. Still, Elias knew time was of the essence. The baby needed food, and the mother needed care. Elias, though old and slow, knew the land around him better than anyone. He stood and made his way to his farm, fetching a blanket and some tools to create a makeshift sling. He returned swiftly, his old legs carrying him with purpose despite his years. He carefully lifted the baby dragon, cradling it gently in his arms, and began to clear a path for the mother to move. It wasn't long before Elias found himself hauling the mother to a safer area, a cave hidden deep within the forest, where the dragon could rest. The cave had been abandoned for centuries, but its cool, protective walls provided shelter. Elias carefully laid the mother down and built a fire to help ease her pain. He couldn't treat her wounds with the advanced technology he once had as a healer, but he could use the old remedies he had learned during his travels, roots and herbs, poultices and tinctures. The process was slow, and Elias's strength was waning, but he persisted, each small success strengthening his resolve. The baby dragon, meanwhile, was weak but seemed to be slowly recovering in Elias's care. He fed it small amounts of food and kept it warm by the fire. In the following days, Elias worked tirelessly to ensure the mother's recovery, never leaving her side. The bond between them deepened, a silent understanding growing between the old man and the creatures. He wasn't sure if the dragon understood his language, but somehow they communicated. She would rest her large head near him, and her eyes, full of trust, would follow his every movement. The baby dragon, though skittish at first, began to grow stronger under his care, and it often napped near the warmth of the fire. As the days passed, Elias began to feel a sense of peace he hadn't known for years. The dragon had not only brought him a sense of purpose, but it also reminded him of the quiet beauty that still existed in the universe. The beauty that had first driven him to help others, to heal, to make the world a better place. Even in the twilight of his life, he had a role to play, and it was a role that brought him joy. One evening, as Elias sat beside the fire, the mother dragon stirred. Her eyes, once filled with pain, now held a glimmer of strength. She slowly rose to her feet, her wings trembling but strong enough to carry her. The baby dragon, now more vibrant and active, clung to her side. Elias stood, watching with a sense of awe. He had done everything he could for them, fed them, cared for them, protected them. But now, it was time for them to leave. He knew that the dragon's journey was far from over. She had a family to return to, and her place was among the stars, not here on this quiet, lonely farm. The mother dragon turned to face him, her gaze full of gratitude. She gently nuzzled Elias's shoulder, and for a brief moment, she laid her head against his chest, as though giving him a final blessing. Then, with a powerful, graceful motion, she unfurled her wings and lifted into the air, the baby dragon trailing behind her. Elias watched as they disappeared into the sky, the stars once again welcoming the creatures of the universe back into their fold. As the last traces of the dragon's wings vanished into the night, Elias sat down on the ground, content. He had done what he was meant to do, and in return, the universe had shown him a kind of grace he hadn't expected, a reminder that even in his age, his quiet life still had purpose. The old man, who had once been a healer of the body, had become a healer of the soul. And the mother dragon, who had once been lost, now had a safe place in the world once again. As Elias watched the stars flicker overhead, he realized that he had helped not just a dragon, but a creature of the universe who would carry the memory of his kindness with her, wherever she went. And that, he thought, was enough.